Hi, this is Lana Shea, an Iowa mom, and we're making boule bread. Oh, now before you get all nervous, this is the easiest bread you could possibly make. It is so simple, anybody can do it. It only takes flour, salt, yeast, and water. I'm putting 3 cups of flour in a big bowl. You could weigh it at 13.5 ounces. And then 1 1/4 teaspoon salt. And then to that, a 1/4 teaspoon dry yeast. It doesn't take very much. Now I mix those dry ingredients together. Next, we're going to make a hole in the center of the flour, getting ready to put that water in. We're going to use 1 1/2 cups water. We stir that together, and it's going to be very sticky, but that is okay. It's supposed to be that way. And then we're going to cover that with a tea towel or plastic wrap, and we're going to let it rise 12 hours, but not more than 24. If you really need to change that to a little lesser time, that's okay, but the best flavor is going to be 12 hours or more. We need some kind of a pan that has a lid, and you could even use something like 2 pie pans together like this. I happen to have this baking dish, and that works too. So I've used both, and sometimes I make more than one. Today I'm going to use this one. We're going to spray it down, and I also spray around the lid because this bread will raise up into the lid. We're going to make sure our counter is nice and clean, and I put on an apron because I do get dusty when I do this. We're going to sprinkle the counter with a good helping of flour. And then I'm going to be using a spatula, and I get it nice and floured so that it doesn't stick. If it starts to stick, I flour it again, kind of loosen that up, and just let that liquidy dough come out onto that flour. Now I want to make sure there's flour around the outside edge because I'm going to actually be scooping the flour into that dough. I'm using a spatula, and can you see how I'm just folding that dough onto itself with all of that flour in place. And once it gets to where it's not quite so sticky, then I can take my hands and get in there very lightly. Okay. I keep tucking the flour under the dough until it forms a nice little ball. By the way, boule is French for ball. That's probably where they got the name. Then we just plop that right into the pan. We can kind of reshape that a little bit. There's a lot of flour left over. I'm going to just toss that, but I have to use plenty or the dough will stick to the counter every time. Now it's shaped and ready. I put the lid on, cover it. Now we're going to let that set for 2 hours before we bake it. I set my timer for 1 1/2 hours so that I can preheat my oven to 450 for that last half hour of resting time. My oven has heated to 450. We'll put it in there with the lid on for a half hour. Okay, after a half hour, it won't be brown on the top, so we take the lid off and let it bake for another 10 to 15 minutes. As you can see, it's nice and brown. And then we just spread a little bit of olive oil on that hot crust. And what that does is it gives it a little more flavor, and it also softens the crust. And we're going to let that set for 15 minutes before we can cut it. It sure smells good. This is Lana Shea, an Iowa mom. Thanks for watching. On YouTube.com and Iowa Mom Videos, select the video tab to find a whole list of helpful videos.